Imagine building your entire career, your entire identity, on making people believe the world is good. 60 million followers, a Harvard degree, a speaking slot at the World Economic Forum, videos from over 100 countries telling you that strangers are beautiful and humanity is worth celebrating. The internet's wholesome ambassador, the guy who made cynics feel things. And then imagine watching that same person sneak into a country on a fake passport, exploit a 103-year-old indigenous woman for a $15 course, call Sam Bankman freed a saint, and then, when it all started unraveling, film a 17-minute video calling himself a hero 15 times while staging phone calls with his own employees to confirm he'd done nothing wrong. That is the Nas Daily story. And the reason it hits so much harder than your average creator controversy is because the product he was selling wasn't entertainment. It wasn't comedy or drama or even information. He was selling you a feeling, warmth, hope, the idea that people at their core are incredible. And when the man behind that message turns out to be everything the message was arguing against, well, the internet doesn't forgive that. It dismantles it. So let's talk about how Nusir Yassin, better known as Nas Daily, went from the most beloved creator online to the guy the entire internet collectively agreed they were finished with. First, you need to understand how high he climbed, because the fall doesn't mean anything without it. In 2016, Nas made one of the cleanest bets in creator history. One video every single day for 1,000 days straight, each video exactly 1 minute long, shot across more than 100 countries, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The format was genuinely genius, tight, emotional, globally inclusive, endlessly shareable. And at a time when the internet felt like it was actively trying to make you hate everyone, here was this Palestinian guy from Israel telling you that people were actually pretty incredible. He built millions of followers on Facebook before YouTube even knew his name. He turned Nas Daily into a full media company with over 100 employees. He built Nas Academy. He spoke at Davos. He was being treated like the internet had finally produced someone worth trusting. And people didn't just watch him, they believed in him. That belief is precisely what made everything that followed so brutal to witness, because while the world was busy being inspired, the cracks were already forming. People just didn't want to look. The first real warning came from the Philippines in 2019, and it came quietly enough that most people missed it. Nas flew out to film a young environmental activist named Lois Mabulo, who ran a nonprofit helping local farmers fight deforestation through cacao farming. Noble cause, great content potential. Except according to Lois, the moment Nas arrived and looked around at the farmers and their land, his energy shifted completely. She claimed he started mocking the local accent, making comments about how poor Filipinos were, and ultimately decided the story wasn't clickable enough to bother publishing. She held that story for 2 full years before going public. When she did, Nas's response was to call her nonprofit a fraud. Classic PR mechanics. Address the thing you can spin, ignore the thing you can't. Whether her organization had issues or not is entirely beside the point, because he never once addressed the part where he allegedly sat in someone's village and laughed at them for being poor. That part got no response. That part got buried, and most people let it stay buried. That was the warm-up. The Wang Od situation is where things got genuinely unhinged. Wang Od is a Kalinga tattoo artist from the Philippines. At the time, she was approximately 103 years old and the last living practitioner of a centuries-old tradition called batok, tattooing done by hand using thorns and charcoal ink. She is not just famous. She is considered sacred by her community. Nas made a video about her that looked completely wholesome on the surface, but buried in the description was an advertisement for a paid Nas Academy course where you could learn from her for about $15. When her grandniece Grace saw this, she posted about it on Facebook and it detonated. She said Wang Od had never signed any contract, that people were exploiting her culture without proper authorization, that this was not what she had agreed to. The hashtag #UnfollowNasDaily started trending immediately. He lost somewhere between 370,000 and 500,000 Facebook followers in 3 days. Then the Philippine government's National Commission on Indigenous Peoples stepped in, pointing out that Kalinga tattooing is collective cultural property, meaning consent from one elder who may not have fully understood the arrangement is not remotely sufficient. His Philippines branch of Nas Academy eventually shut down entirely, and instead of sitting with that, absorbing it, actually reckoning with what had happened, he kept going. That pivot, that complete refusal to learn anything, is the through line for everything that came after. Shortly after the Philippines fallout, Nas uploaded a video calling Sam Bankman-Fried the most generous billionaire in the world, described him as a real-life saint. A year later, FTX collapsed, Bankman-Fried was arrested, and he was eventually sentenced to 25 years in prison with an $11 billion fine for one of the largest financial frauds in modern history. Nas quietly deleted the video and said nothing meaningful. Then he did it again, called CZ, founder of Binance, the most humble crypto billionaire. CZ later pleaded guilty to money laundering charges. At this point, Nas Daily had a better track record of identifying fraudsters than most regulatory agencies, and he was doing it entirely by accident while trying to complement them. Then came Malaysia. Nas snuck into a country that does not allow Israeli passport holders to enter by using a second passport from St. Kitts and Nevis. Got in, ate the food, filmed the culture, praised the people, posted the video. Zero mention of the fact that he had to deceive his way into the country to make it happen. This is a man who built an entire brand on transparency and authentic human connection, using a loophole passport to exploit a country's hospitality for content. And when it came out, it became Exhibit A in the argument that his positivity had always been conditional, performed when it was useful, abandoned when it wasn't. Then he went on a podcast and was asked directly whether some of the people featured in his videos were paid sponsorships. He said yes. Asked if he disclosed that, he said no, adding that since he didn't live in America, he technically didn't have to. YouTube is an American platform. FTC disclosure regulations apply to every creator who uses it, regardless of their physical location when they upload. He casually admitted to hiding paid promotions from his audience on camera and framed it as a technicality. By 2024, the controversies had stacked so high that Nas apparently decided the solution was to upload a video explaining himself using a framework he invented called the underdog hero villain Phoenix arc. He called himself a hero over 15 times. He staged phone calls to his own employees asking them to confirm he had done nothing wrong, employees who depend on him for a paycheck. The internet labeled it the most narcissistic damage control they had ever witnessed, and they were not wrong because he wasn't apologizing. He was rebranding his ego as a storyline and asking the audience to applaud the narrative structure. Then came the LBC interview in November 2025. And that is where whatever remained of his credibility went to die. He told interviewer Tom Swarbrick that the word genocide, a term applied to the situation in Gaza by international courts, the United Nations, and human rights organizations across the globe, was a very emotional, non-scientific word. He called claims of apartheid based on his own personal experience, as if one man's anecdote cancels out the documented reality of millions of people living under military occupation. He framed the entire UK pro-Palestine protest movement as a foreign operation funded by Iran and Qatar, not a genuine human response to watching people get bombed, but a coordinated influence campaign. The people who had quietly defended him through every previous controversy put their phones down and walked away. His response was that he welcomed being canceled over this, which tells you exactly where his head was, because by that point, there wasn't much audience left to lose anyway. The numbers are not subtle. 14 million YouTube subscribers, recent videos averaging around 125,000 views. Less than 1% of his audience is showing up. This is a man who used to pull over 5 million views per video without blinking. He has since pivoted to AI content, tech commentary, and creator economy advice, which is the digital equivalent of a restaurant that used to serve extraordinary food now selling meal prep kits and hoping no one notices the difference. The audience noticed. They just quietly stopped coming. And here's the thing that nobody wants to say plainly. Nas Daily built his empire on the aesthetic of connection rather than actual connection. There is an enormous difference between making people feel like the world is beautiful and actually treating it that way. Real respect for communities looks like proper consent, genuine transparency, and accountability when you get it wrong. It does not look like loophole passports, deleted videos, hidden sponsorships, and a 17-minute self-congratulatory hero arc designed to make your ego sound like a narrative arc. He sold people a feeling, and when the feeling ran out, there was nothing underneath it. Drop your thoughts on Nas Daily in the comments. I genuinely want to know if you ever believed in the brand. and when exactly it stopped landing for you. If this video gave you something to think about, the like button is one tap away, and subscribing means you won't miss the next one. See you there.